How about let's start with that. The Cody Rhodes comments that have gotten a lot of buzz this week, which is probably not the intention as you're doing the press junkets to get out ahead of SummerSlam. Maybe it is. Maybe it is actually the intention. Is Cody, having some choice words. Not, it was they're pretty low key, but I think for it being the first time Cody has really said that there was some disrespect, that he felt disrespected in AEW. Let me get the exact quote just so everybody has the context there. But it's interesting because Cody has usually been kind of above that for the time that he's left AEW, and when asked about it, just being like, we created something there, and it's but I felt it was time to leave or whatever. This is the first time that he says, all right, here we go. Quote, if I ever felt disrespected at WWE, that's one thing. This is on the Ringer podcast, by the way. He was on the Ringer podcast. Quote, if I ever felt disrespected ever at WWE, that's one thing. That's a company that was built. That's the Yankees. That's the flagship of it all. Here we go. Again, another shot at us. I get it. Cody's on us. Tony's on us. We have no allies in this wrestling world. But anyway, quote, feeling disrespected at something I built with my friends that we built, feeling disrespected there, I wouldn't stand for it. So some pretty pointed comments there from Cody responding to his leaving of AEW. But what did you make of him finally maybe ripping that Band-Aid off and saying the disrespect there, the I wouldn't stand for it, that sort of that's harsher language than he's ever used when discussing AEW before.
Well, first of all, he didn't specify what was so disrespectful. That's number one.
That would be a good follow-up question that he wasn't going to get on this particular interview.
And I don't know that he would have answered it with a follow-up, but I guess we'll never know. But it's hard to really break it down from that standpoint because he didn't lay out what the disrespect was. With that said, this is the first time that either Cody or Tony Khan have really spoken on the split. It seemed they had some kind of handshake agreement not to speak about it. In fact, they've both said that they had an agreement not to speak about it. Cody's been tiptoeing to the line a little bit, with each passing interview. And this time he took the first giant step across the line by saying, that he's not going to be disrespected. So at minimum, we now know that he feels like he was disrespected and that's why he didn't want to be there. We just now at this point don't know why he was disrespected. I can say this. Whether it's Case Lowe or whoever else, if somebody asks Tony about this, I guarantee he's not going to say anything. He will continue to dodge that question and not speak on it and honor whatever the handshake agreement was that he had with Cody. I could almost guarantee that. So I don't know if we're going to get an answer from his perspective, but I do think it's interesting that Cody, for whatever reason, has decided that it's time to kind of break that agreed upon silence on it. I don't know what his motivations are. A lot of people seem to think it's to drum up interest in SummerSlam. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. He doesn't know he's going to get asked that question.
Yeah, who's more interested in SummerSlam because he said that, I left there. And there was one more quote too. The greatest revenge on earth is success. I did way more here than you think, and you're going to find out the moment I'm out the door. I mean, does that get you more excited for SummerSlam
one too
against John Cena?
No, but the theory would be that by making those kinds of comments, it's going to draw people to the interview where he then discusses SummerSlam.
Sure,
that's the theory. I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily buy that.
No, people don't consume media that way. With so much aggregation out there and so many clips and stuff like that, like. A lot of people then were following up with like, did he even talk about SummerSlam in this interview? They don't know. Nobody actually is going to go listen. How many people are going to go listen to this whole Ringer interview with Cody and not just go to their wrestling website of choice that's going to aggregate those exact quotes for them and send it to them, and then they're just going to go argue about those quotes with a bunch of people all day.
You got the two juicy quotes right there.
Yeah, that's
how people are going to view it. I don't know if that's his mindset. He doesn't know what he's going to get asked. So how does he even know he's going to be able to unload in that way? You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know if I necessarily buy that that's his intention. But for whatever reason, he feels more comfortable being a lot more forward about the situation, where previously he was always very classy about it and just didn't speak on it. That's going to stay between me and Tony, or, I'm not going to talk about that. Same thing from Tony's side. So, now he seems to be annoyed. He feels like they're taking subtle shots at him. So maybe that's why he feels more emboldened to speak. You know, there was a clip going around of Cody sort of complaining about what Toni Storm said at one of the pressers.
It was at Dynasty. After Dynasty, she said, "Oh, I'm going to finish the story, but I don't want you to be in the ring there celebrating with me, Tony." And
so Cody, two things: finish the story, which is obviously was Cody's whole deal, and not wanting and saying, "I don't want you to be in the ring with me," because Levesque and Nick Khan and everybody came in the ring at WrestleMania. So there's a clip going around of Cody taking exception to that, and one of the things he says is he doesn't name Toni Storm by name, but he says, one of their performers, however he termed it, should keep my name out of their mouth, my wife's name out of their mouth. And Tony, referring to Khan, Tony should let people know that they shouldn't say things like that. And I'm paraphrasing, but he's obviously putting the heat on Tony Khan in that situation, not Toni Storm, almost as if so Cody might think in his mind that it's actually Tony Khan who broke the truce, because Cody doesn't want to be just mentioned at all by any of these people in that company. So maybe that's what has motivated him to, when he's asked now, maybe he thought to himself, hey, look, now if people ask me about this, I'm just going to unload, because I feel like Tony isn't honoring his end of this thing.
Right.
I don't know that, but that's kind of how I've pieced it together as to how maybe he's thinking here.
There's been some theory too that possibly the current EVP storyline with the Young Bucks feels like it's referencing Cody in some ways. I don't get that vibe at all. The Tony thing I do. The Toni Storm thing, I understand how if you are looking for a way to be aggrieved or looking for a way to be annoyed, finish the story. That feels kind of like a nod to Cody. I mean, there's no way you don't see that connection there. And I don't want you in the ring with me, Tony. That again, if you're looking for a reason to sort of be annoyed, I could see how you can make that connection. The Young Bucks EVP thing, I don't necessarily see a connection there. But I definitely see it from the Toni Storm presser thing. And maybe there's a couple other things that are happening that Cody feels like is a little bit of a jab his way that maybe we don't even realize that's happening on TV or whatever. A word that was said between him and Tony in private that's being used in a story. You know what I mean? Like, there might be stuff like that we don't even know about. But
I mean, look, I don't see it either with the Bucks thing, but then again, I wasn't in the room with any of these people, and I don't know if they are. I don't know if they are making
right.
Sly
Like, there
references.
might be something that's happened. Like, the Bucks said something that Cody told Tony, and they thought it was in private, and now because something clearly changed. Like you're saying, something happened there's no reason that Cody would be pretty much exactly to the T PR answers every single time for like 2.5 years, 3 years of this. Cause he would always just, like I said, you mentioned a little bit earlier, he would always say, we built something great there, but it was just time to move on and try something new. Or, I'll never, regret my time there, but I had to move on. Like just stuff like that. Like those usual kind of boilerplate PR answers. This is as biting as it's been. So something changed. There had to be a reason why this week he decided to go a little edgier with it and a little stronger with the wording. So what that is, who can say? But yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people are waiting for the next domino to fall on the AEW end. I don't think Tony's going to do that. I think Tony Khan is going to do that. So we'll see if it just gets completely no sold by the company and they just keep doing their thing, or if Cody says more things. Like who knows? Or maybe Cody just decides he feels more emboldened to start letting a couple things out here and there, because he's all over the place. He is the face of that company. He's doing media junkets and press conferences all the time. So he's probably going to get asked a form of this question again, and I'd be very curious how he answers it the next time he's asked.
Well, now that he gave people some crumbs, people are going to pounce. They're definitely going to ask him.
You should.
They're going to ask
and you have to. And if you're a good interviewer, you would say, last time on the Ringer podcast, you said you were felt disrespected. Do you care to elaborate? What disrespect were what disrespect did you feel? What happened? That's if you're a good interviewer, that you have to ask that. And that's going to be juicy. You know what I mean? Because I think, like you said, he's showing that he'll give you a juicy answer now.
Yeah, they're going to ask him. They're going to ask Tony, and we'll see. I could almost guarantee that Tony's is going to no sell.
I don't think he would. Yeah, I don't think he would.
He's not going to say a thing. Cody, I don't know. He does come across very thin-skinned, in my opinion, with all of this. Why does he care? I mean, who cares? You're a gajillionaire at this point. You proved your point. Okay. If your point was, look, he said it himself. He said, I'm going to leave this company and I'm going to show you, or whatever it is that the disrespect was. Many are speculating it's that he was upset that Punk was making more money than him, which, if that's the case, I can understand why he'd be upset about that, right? He's the founder of the company. He's the biggest star for the first couple of years, and you hire somebody else and you're paying him more. That's a reasonable question. Now, Punk was clearly drawing more money than Cody by that stage. Punk was a bigger television draw. He was drawing more money. He was responsible for the company, no matter what anybody says in retrospect. I don't care what anybody says. I'll debate them.
We lived through it. We're not retconning this. We all lived through this.
I'll debate anyone, and I will crush them into dust if they want a piece of this. Because, hey, look, the fact of the matter is, no matter what you think of Punk now, he sparked, the business, the peak business that company has ever done. So from that standpoint, Punk would deserve to make the most money, right? But I could also understand Cody's argument. Cody, he's like, what the fuck? I was here first and we founded the company. So I get it. Mm-hmm. If that's the disrespect he's talking about, I understand. But he has proved his point because he left and said, you're going to regret it. And what did he do? He became the biggest star in pro wrestling, far surpassing anybody else. And he helped spark the WWE resurgence where they left AEW in the dust with him on top. And a lot of that was due to Cody. Mm-hmm.
And Punk's the guy that Tony gave the money to crashed and burned, as anybody could have possibly seen. And AEW went through a tailspin for about a year and a half.
So, Cody, here's the thing, bud. You were right.
You were right.
You were right about Punk. You were right about yourself. You bet on yourself and won. You are responsible for WWE's business explosion, and you are obviously very much partially responsible for the decline in AEW's business. You did everything you said you were going to do, and you proved your point. So what are you being so thin-skinned about? You know what I mean? It's like, why even? Who cares if Tony Storm referenced you in a post-show presser? What's the old phrase? A lion doesn't concern themselves with the opinion of a sheep. That's essentially what that situation is. Why you should laugh that off? You're making more money than ever, and you were right about everything. So why be so thin-skinned? Yeah. At a completely different scale. It's like you should. I don't know. Never mind. I'm not going to make that point. But I thought better, Rich. I pumped the brakes on one.
Look at
I pumped the brakes on one because
let it be known in 2025, Joe Lanza thought about something, stopped himself, and then moved on. That's what
I'm going to make the point anyway. Do you know how? Do you?
Damn it! We thought we had him. Never mind. Reset the clock. All right. What's up?
Do you know how many people talk shit about this show and me and you and everything else? And I have to tell the people that rat back to me. I'm like, I don't care. Don't tell me this stuff. I couldn't care less what, Bozo Micropod has to say about me. I'm living my best life over here and we're doing great. What do I give a shit? And that should be Cody's attitude in this situation, because he's been right about everything and all he does is win. And let me tell you something else. He could moonwalk back into AEW at any time and prop that business back up. And boy, do they need it. And he knows it too. So I think he's being way too thin-skinned about all this shit. And I think he shouldn't he shouldn't let it bother him, and he shouldn't say anything about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's very interesting for sure that he decided to take this tact, especially when, like you said, he not only is he winning and he was right and he proved himself, he bet on himself again and he won again. He proved that he was a massive loss to AEW, a gigantic loss to AEW. And like you said, he's on the top of the world in WWE. I mean, he's main eventing the second night of SummerSlam against John Cena for the world title. It's like, what? You got it all, man. But I don't know. It's these wrestlers are wrestlers. And the other point you brought up too, and there was some pushback about this on our Discord when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, voicewrestling.com/Discord, if you want to jump on in there. But there were some people saying, I don't think Cody would matter if he came back to AEW. And I'm like, no. He is going to, if and when, and I still think it's a when. I don't think it's an if. I think it's a when. I think there is a point sometime in the future. Now, I think a lot of things have to happen. I think WWE has to either find a new guy or Cody has to get bored or a couple of things have to happen for it to get this way. But I truly believe that at some point we will see Cody in AEW again. And when he comes back, he'll be a big star. And when he comes back, it'll move tickets and it'll move ratings and he'll get a big pop. And it's That's a big time guy. That's a big time star. Whether you like him or not, whatever you think about the current Cody character, whatever, the guy moves business. The guy is a business dynamo and has been for a couple of years now. There is no way that if he waltzes back into AEW, it's not seen as a massive deal for AEW that he came back home. And guess what? After like a promo and a half, he'd be brought back with open arms too.
I mean, Cody is the same guy who, let's not forget, if you want to tie this into our show, who used to subtweet us as Stardust backstage from Raw when he didn't like things we had to say about his work on this show when he was with WWE the first time. Correct. Rich, is that a factor?
That is at Hyrule Husky or whatever. Yes.
Stardust tweets.
Many times. We were like
subtweeting.
We had the same response. By the way, our response was the same. We were like, Cody, you were just on Raw, like having a match on national television in front of 15,000 people. You have a hot wife and a daughter. What the fuck are you bothering? Who cares? Like, or you
I
don't know if he had the wife and daughter.
Oh,
he had the wife at the time. He had a girlfriend. We were just like, brother, you got everything. What are you getting mad at us for? Like, it's fine.
But he's a very thin-skinned guy. I mean, he's wears it on his sleeve. I guess he's a guy who like wants you to think he's not wearing on his sleeve, but he wears it on his sleeve.
Yeah.
He's the, don't tell the papers I'm mad. Like, he's, that's right. So I mean,
that happened a couple times, but if you think it's just one, no, it was like a couple of times. Like he would have a match on Raw.
Rich, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing.
He would be like, "How's that for boring or whatever?" We're like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Look, we would talk about how he never had anything more than a 2.5-star match and all this. We were just doing our show and reviewing things. It either got back to him or he was a listener or something, and he would, subtweet us all the time, which is fine. And that feud carried over. Like, he even did the thing where we were in his mentions one time, and he's like, "Oh yeah, those two guys tried to get an autograph from me, but I blew them all." And we're like, "What? We tried to get an autograph?" He's just trying to poke at us because right. And that's fine. Like we said things about him. If he wants to poke at us, it's like our listeners know we would never ask anyone for an autograph.
No, yeah, and that's the problem. He went too far with it, and he had a bad story. It was a two-pronged story that wasn't very good. Actually, there was a couple parts of it. The fact that you and I hadn't met yet at that point, and we had said that we never met, and everybody knew that we didn't meet. So everyone's like, they've never met, so that's not true. He also said that we asked for an autograph. We would never. I ask so few people for their autographs. I got Bret Hart's autograph a couple weeks ago. I have Okada's autograph, and I have Ultimo Dragon's autograph. That's about the three wrestlers that I'd actually. I mean, the list is short. The list of wrestlers that I will ask an autograph for is very, very, very short. And no offense, Stardust, you weren't on that list in 2015 or whatever. And worst of all, he said that I met him at a Giordano's in Illinois, and I would never go to Giordano's. Giordano's sucks. It's a terrible pizza place. I wouldn't be caught dead there. So yeah, and then people also caught him on that. They're like, I don't think Rich will go to Giordano's because I know him and I know he does not like Giordano's at all. So it was a lot of, he got caught up in it, and a lot of people in the mentions had our back of like, nah, here's a couple things that this story doesn't quite mesh.
So to be clear, by that point, it became playful.
Correct.
Okay. There was no heat between any of the people involved at this point. It was clearly playful. And then eventually you went to some press event and met him, and then it became all water under the bridge.
Right. Well, actually, there was something in between that bridged the gap and actually caused a good DM conversation that led eventually to All In. We were discussing Michael Jordan. And this is like a perfect Twitter conversation. Me and somebody else were talking about Michael Jordan and how big of a star he was. And some guy from the UK, and it's always some guy from Britain or the UK, chimed in and said, Michael Jordan had nothing. It was not a big star anywhere but America. And that's just objectively not true.
Listen, obviously a preposterous comment that we don't even need to debate.
Correct.
So we can just move on with the story.
Yeah, we're going to move on with the story. And Cody jumped into the DM, or jumped into the mentions. It was like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I've been around the world, and Michael Jordan's gigantic all around the world. And then I was like, thanks for having my back, Cody. He's like, yeah, no problem. He's like, that's ridiculous. Then him and I just had this, we had that discussion. We're like, I mean, I was in Italy. Yeah, I was in Italy too. I saw a giant banner of him. I've been in Barcelona. I've been here. Cody's saying everywhere that he's been, and he says he's from America, and people still say, oh, like Michael Jordan, right? Yeah. So that,
and then I remember Cody was like, those fucking Brits with their teeth.
Right. I was like, all right, here we go.
He didn't say that, to be clear. He didn't say that. I have to say that, Rich. Rich, because it'll be on Reddit tomorrow.
Exactly. Yes, Cody. The next time they do a show in the UK, he's going to get massive heat. Yeah, we don't want to do that. So
those goddamn limeys with their bad teeth.
Right. Z said, did TJP interrupt the conversation to talk about Kobe? Most likely, yes. Probably yes. I don't remember, I don't remember, but yes, he did. Yeah. I'm sure. But.
And he probably also put us on a passive aggressive Twitter list of non-ball knowers, which he likes to do.
But it would be called. Like it was so passive aggressive.
Something of that ilk.
No, but it'd be like really smart basketball guys or whatever, and that was it was supposed to take you
sarcastic.
down.
Super sarcastic. Yeah.
Oh, these guys know ball. They're smart, and it'd be because you were like, I don't know. I think LeBron's better than Antoine Jameson. I don't know. That's just me. But TJ, that would get you on the TJP list. That would get you on the list. So I don't know that JJ Hickson's going to lead the Cavs to a title the same way LeBron did, but maybe I'm wrong.
Listen, TJ, I don't think you could just plug in Luol Deng's stats and have them replace LeBron, which was a real take.
That was a real take, yeah. That post LeBron, the Cavs would be better when he went to when he left which one is this?
There's the Miami. It's all the way back then.
Is it all the way back? My God, we've been arguing.
When
did
he go to Miami? He went to Miami 2013, right?
2012, 2011, 2012.
That would be it.
God, we were arguing with TJP that long. All right. Geez, where has time gone? But yeah, the idea was that LeBron would leave the Cavs, but they would be better without him. Oh, right, because Antoine Jameson was there. Yeah, and the idea was they're not going to lose much because Antoine Jameson can just fill in LeBron's stats. And we were like, I don't know. Good. Yeah,
he's like, well, he's like, when you look at it, Luol Deng only averaged 3 less rebounds, 2 less assists, 4 less points. So, Luol Deng could just step right in and replace him, was the idea.
Right. Yeah, Antoine will step up.
That was the Heat. That's when he left the Heat.
Yeah. Antoine Jameson will. Yeah, when he left the Heat, it was LeBron. Luol's going to go to the Heat, and they're not going to miss a beat. Dwayne will be there, Bosh will be there, and Luol Deng will be there. They'll be fine. Yeah.
He used the same argument twice for 2 different players.
That's
First
right.
It was Antoine. Yeah. It was Antoine Jameson, and then it would be Luol Deng, who would just step right in and replace the production of LeBron James.
Which is great because the Cavs won. They won like 18 games the year after he left, after winning like 60 games when he was there. And the Heat, I want to say, I forget about the Heat one. That I think they fell on their face pretty bad in the post LeBron era. But let's see here. They went from 54 wins to 37 wins the next year with Luol Deng as their top win share haver though. Problem though, Joe, like you said, stats. So LeBron James the year prior, his win shares were 15.9. Luol Deng stepped right in, filled the gap, 5.4 win shares. So a little less.
Right, but how many less assists? That's the important.
Right, just a couple. Yeah.
So then that led to you meeting Cody face to face at a press event, and it was all chuckles and laughter because it was really playful banter beyond a certain point with all of this. None of this was. I don't want anyone to think any of this was mean spirited, but it was volleying back and forth because each side knew the other was paying attention.
Correct.
And let me tell you something, and let's be fair to Cody. Not many other people were paying attention to us at that time. So thank you for paying attention to us when almost no one else was. And, he's listening to this dopey podcast. We were the Bozo show that I referenced earlier.
The Bozo Micropod. Yeah, that was us.
We were the Bozo Micropod. But again, that's kind of my point. There's no reason to be thin-skinned about this stuff when you won everything. You're the winner. And as to circle all the way back before this thing went off the rails, yeah, I mean, if Cody picked the right spot, he can come back to AEW. And anyone who don't thinks that theme song wouldn't blow the roof off of any building in AEW, and the vast majority of the fan base wouldn't see it as a massive star returning, he's still arguably the biggest star in the sport, is out of their mind. Now, there would be a certain portion of the AEW fan base who will never accept him again.
Of course.
And for good reason, because he will be seen as someone who was completely full of shit, with all of his, but that's just getting burned by pro wrestlers. They're all completely full of shit, but we all get burned from time to time when we believe in what these guys have to say. But they're going to see him as someone who was completely full of shit and really wasn't part of the movement because he chose to go back and has completely embraced being back and all of those things. But again, especially Cody, these guys are always working to their audience.
Of course.
Especially Cody. Okay, that guy is a worker's.
He's his father's son, for God's sake.
you work to your audience, and that's just, people believed in CM Punk and got burned. People believed in Cody and got burned. But here's the thing. There is a portion of the fan base who's not going to accept him, and they're going to insist that he doesn't. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, he knows he's the biggest star in the world, and he knows he can come back to that company, and his ego understands that he's the one that could help them turn things back around, and then he could win again. Don't think for 1 second he doesn't know that or think that. Of course he does.
It's a fun challenge. Like I said, eventually he's just going to get bored of WWE or whatever, or the WWE is going to get bored of him. Something's going to happen, and he's going to take that on as another challenge, another bet on myself. You know what? Let me see if I can do it one more time. Let me see if I can do it again. Because, I did it the first time. I jumped from WWE. I went to the Indies. I created this thing, and I bet on myself again. I left that thing, and I went to WWE. I went back to WWE, and it worked. Why wouldn't you want to bet on yourself again? Especially at that point in your career, you're well established, late 40s, early 50s, wherever he might be at that point. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you just say, let's see if I can do it one more time?
And that's the thing. The clock might tick out on this, and we might never see it. But it wouldn't stun me at all if he went back there. Because as much as it seems like there's a ton of bad blood with him talking about disrespect and all these rumors flying around of what really happened between him and Tony Khan, it's pro wrestling. And if CM Punk can go back to WWE and take a mark pick with Paul Levesque, and if, you can name your wrestler historically who it looked like the bridge was burned, can go back to wherever it was where the bridge was burned, Cody can go back to AEW. So it wouldn't stun me at all if it happens. And in fact, if I had to bet on it, I would say that it will probably happen. Neither would stun me, though. If he never goes back, I don't think that would really surprise me either. But things change fast in this business, and these guys are opportunists. They're workers, and when there's an opportunity to make more money or do something that will reflect well on you, these guys jump on. So I don't know. Do we have anything else to add about this situation? Now it becomes a fun wait and see if these guys get asked about it again. And it'll be one of these ongoing stories. Will the true story ever come out? What happened between these guys? I don't know. I think it's plausible that Punk making more than him sort of matches the words he had to say in this Bill Simmons interview, right? Disrespect. I built this thing.
Right.
I will prove to you that those all line up with he was annoyed that other people were making more money than him. So I think that's maybe possibly
given better titles or given more, because that's always been speculated about as well. Is that did CM Punk, when he was eventually brought in, did he get some points in it? Did he get a title? Did he get something like that? And little by little, and this has been discussed by Kenny, the Bucks, and Cody as well, that they came in as with the the EVPs and the big titles and stuff, and then little by little that power kind of got taken from them. The booking power got taken away, and then little by little they were just kind of guys on the roster that might have had good titles, but didn't. It's possible that also was his thing. Feeling disrespected there.
And I think it's also clear at this point that CM Punk had some sort of deal above and beyond just being a talent.
Right.
So maybe he was bothered by that aspect of it too. This guy who didn't have the balls to jump in at the beginning with the rest of us, waited for it to be a success, then decides to hop on board, and you're going to give him some sort of employee position as well. All of these things could have been. But again, this is just pure speculation at this point. But I could see him being annoyed about that too. Like a lot of these situations, I don't think it's fair to just approach him from black and white. I could see his side on a lot of this.
Of course.
And I could see Tony, and if this is how it played out, I could see Tony's side. Look, I have to pay CM Punk more than you, or we don't get him, right? And then the guy comes in and instantly delivers monster ratings and fills up houses. So you could even justify it from that standpoint. But I could see Cody's side where it's, I need to be making $1 more than him. It's only fair. I built this thing.
Yeah, sports teams go through the same thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You have an established player that helps get you to a certain level. You sign a free agent. That free agent makes more than that guy. And he goes, what the fuck? Hold on a minute. I've been here for 8 years. Why is that guy making more than me?
And in this situation, it's not CM Punk's fault or Bryan Danielson's fault or anyone's fault if they got more money than him. So you leave them out of it. They're just, so I get it. I totally get it. And if he felt disrespected and then basically told Tony, look, I don't want to be here. Don't exercise. And that could have been how it played out. He could have said, hey, look, don't exercise that option, because Tony loves to put the team options on these contracts. Okay, he learned that from sports. These team options, which have come into play in a lot of people's different situations. Ricky Starks, a few others as well. And, Cody may have said, hey, look, I don't want to be here. Don't exercise that team option, and let's just have a handshake deal to just never talk about any of this. And that could be how we got here. And now we see what happened. I mean, I don't want to do a segment where we're constantly repeating ourselves, but Cody clearly won. I mean, let's call it like it is. I mean, the guy he not only won, he won 59-0. I mean, he just completely
it was a blowout. Yeah, it's been a blowout. Yeah.
It couldn't have been worked out more perfect for him, except I'll tell you what. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone who you just knew couldn't get over their ex?
Of course. Yeah.
I think we all have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you just get the sense and they don't even know they're doing it, but they give you all these clues that they are just not over their ex. Yeah. And you're thinking to yourself, well, this is doomed. When this sex ceases to be exciting, I'm out of here.
In a couple months, this is going to be pretty bad. This is going to not be that fun anymore. Yep.
When this is boring, when we hit that wall, that's my sign to get out, because this person is not over their ex. Cody is very clearly still not over his ex, and he still holds some kind of emotions. As the kids say on the street, Rich, he feels a certain kind of way about AEW. It's very clear. Because that's why he's gotten to by all of this. And that's why every time he talks about this stuff, he makes it a point to say, let's not forget who built this. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget I'm the one who built it.
Which in and of itself is a little disrespectful to Tony, because, look, you guys did a lot of really good stuff. No doubt about it. You did All In. You were a big part of All In. The Bullet Club, Bullet Club getting hot, and you being able to attach yourself to the Bullet Club and then take that Bullet Club to another level, and Kenny being able to do what he was doing, and New Japan. There's a lot of things that had to happen, but none of it happens if you don't have a billionaire, Smark, that's willing to give you a bunch of money to buy this thing and has connections to TV. You know what I mean? Like, he says we, and he never, and you can tell from his words, he doesn't mean Tony. He feels like Tony kind of intruded on it, and it's like, brother, that shit doesn't happen without Tony too. I mean, it needs to be everybody involved, but that's why I think to include Tony as well.
Sure, and I think that's why there's a decent chance he goes back, because I think he still loves the place, mm-hmm. and he loves what he built, and I think he
still feels very accomplished by it. And he has said that a lot. That he still feels like, God damn it, I left this place and I went and I created something. And look what's going on over there. Whether we're beating their ass or not, they still exist. And that's because of me in some part.
I think he just hates if people forget that he deserves some credit.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's a definite possibility that one day he ends up going back, because I think he feels like, he even made an interesting comment, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something else that was kind of a tip off. And you have to read between the lines when you listen to these kind of interviews and these quotes. But he even mentioned that when he said he felt disrespected in AEW, he said, in WWE, when they do things to disrespect you, it's different, because they're a big company and they've been here for decades, and it's whatever.
They're the Yankees.
And
he said, when it happens to them, it's one thing, because they're the Yankees. They're the established one.
And that shows you he doesn't love the place he's in, because it doesn't hurt him when they treat him like a number. He's just like, whatever, man, I'm making my money. I'm winning. I'm proving my point. And this is just what they do. And that's how a lot of people take that company. They just roll their eyes and move on. Right. But it hurt him emotionally when he felt disrespected in AEW. Again, relate this to being with someone who's not over their ex. They're still hurt emotionally by their ex. You can forget to call them back, and they're not going to have those same kind of feelings towards you, because they're still thinking about their ex. And that's kind of the situation that could. It's so obvious that he still has an attachment to AEW, and that fuels a lot of this thin skin behavior. Why is he even? You could even use the old Cody gif of his ear, where they zoom in while he's cupping his ear. Why is he even paying attention to what's going on in AEW? If he's just, if you know what I mean?
I'd be so above that. Let go. Yeah, I'd be so above that if I were him, but he can't. Yeah,
he cannot let go. So that's fueling a lot of this.
He still loves it there, like you said, like the ex. You still kind of, there's still some love there. There's still a fire burning in there for sure. You can tell.
Man, hey, let me tell you. Speaking of Bozo Micropod, you show me another podcast that gets into these kind of topics with this kind of depth. Right. This was such a great segment We're like really great at this.
We're not bad.
I
think we're okay.
We're not. We're great. We're really great at this. This is good. You're bringing out pompous Joe Lanza now. I'm really feeling myself here. This was some segment. I'm doing the segment. Like, I'm literally doing the segment, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, I love this segment as a listener, even though I'm the one providing the audio. That's some sick behavior right there. That is some sick ass behavior.